There are a few residence permits in Africa that are going to end up becoming the most powerful across the board before 2027. But here's the caveat: these things don't last forever. I mean, things change so quickly with immigration permits, visas, residencies. But the three countries that we're going to name to you today are going to end up dominating. In fact, they already are. One of them is number one for doing business on the continent of Africa.
Mm.
One of them is known as the Singapore of Africa, and one of them is another quiet African island that's actually on the west coast of Africa that you could go to right now and get a simple digital nomad residence permit. So, without further ado, let's get into it and talk about why you need to know about these residence permits because we don't know how long they're going to last.
Yeah, because this is something very important. This is something that we were talking about last night in a state of diaspora and a mature adult intensive. They was asking about certain countries. What about West Africa? What about South Africa, East Africa? And I had to break it down to them like it's not time to try to explore Africa because everything that's happening in the world right now, you really have to consider how things are going to change super fast. So I was letting them know, hey, you really have to choose your top two countries, and it has to, in a way, have to be in the same region. So I know in this video we're going to break this down for you guys, so you guys can get the information that you need because it's not time to waste time.
Exactly. And listen, the ability for you to live, travel, bank, stabilize yourself, and have long term residency and reposition yourself is all based on what you do before you ever leave America to
Mm,
come to the continent of Africa. It's even going to come down to going to a country that is more politically stable than another. Because what a lot of expats don't understand is if you go
mm,
to a country that's not politically stable, their visa residency permits can change with the new presidents and
mm.
political systems that are coming in, meaning you could get left in the dark. I mean, we just did a video about Portugal and how they had a
Yeah,
change in their regime, and 500 investors are actually suing the Portuguese government because they put in $500,000 and did not even get permanent residence or their passport as they were promised. And so, if you want to avoid being in that boatload of people that kind of makes the wrong decision, unfortunately, then number one, you need to look at moving potentially to Mauritius, Africa. Now, this is number one for doing business on the continent of Africa. Pause this video, type in Google, type in AI, whatever you want to do. What's the top country for doing business in Africa? What's the top
ease. Yeah,
country that is going to be the gateway to business in Africa? And Mauritius is presenting itself and positioning itself that way. Now, we happen to live in Mauritius, Africa, and we have been here for a couple of years now. Let me tell you, all the hype that it has, actually, it could use some more hype, quite
hmm,
honestly, because it really is the easiest country to obtain residence because the paperwork processes are clear. There's not a lot of bureaucracy, there's not a lot of corruption. And so you end up just getting things done. And listen, Mauritius does not scream for attention. Positioned in the Indian Ocean between Africa and Asia, it has literally become one of the continent's strongest long term residency options.
mm.
The only country in Africa that has 10-year residence permits that then move into a 20-year permanent residence. Like that is unheard of
Yeah,
on
you
the
don't hear
continent.
that.
That's
Yeah,
actually unheard of in
around the
most
world.
places in the world as well.
Hmm.
Now, get this, Mauritius combines several unusual advantages at once. Number one, political stability. Number two, modern banking infrastructure. Three, territorial tax structure, which is very favorable.
Important.
Instead
Yeah.
of a 35% tax rate on all of your American income, instead of a 45% tax rate, your tax rate is a meek 15%. And then if you're in tech, innovation, AI, some kind of innovative industry, then you get to pay like zero tax for your first 8 years in business. Okay. Now you can find
Hmm.
all of this on the Mauritius Economic Development Bank website. Just Google that phrase, check it out because everything that you need to understand is there. Now, Mauritius, we also have very strong internet, pretty frequent
Infrastructure.
and strong electricity and water, relative cleanness and organization, private healthcare access, English and French integration, and long term visa flexibility.
Yeah, that's good. Like every time we talk about Mauritius, I know we have been here a couple years, And the people that we talk to, they say, hey, what about X, Y, and Z? And it's like, yeah, Mauritius is good. I know it's different for us because we've been here and we have been experiencing it. Um, just say like last night, I was showing the mature adult attentive clients just the houses and the cost, and pretty much like how they have fully furnished houses. So that's something that a lot of people don't get in Africa. I guess in certain African countries, you could rent a house and it's just going to be completely empty. You might have a refrigerator or something like that, um, possibly a stove, but you really have to furnish the whole house. So that's something that people were shocked about last night. And I was just like, yeah, man, I'm so sorry. I have to break these things down. I'm so used to just saying Mauritius is good. Everything that you need is here. So that's why we really appreciate Mauritius, the infrastructure, just the ease to do business, the professionalism, the customer service. So this is why, I know for me, I'd be like, hey, Mauritius is good.
Absolutely. Now, if you are looking at Mauritius and you're like, okay, what type of residence permit can I
Hmm.
get? Well, number one, the best one is the premium visa, especially if you're under 50. It's one of the most accessible options, and people have
Hmm.
still been getting this visa despite rumors. I'm in groups, and people are like, oh, I just got my premium visa. Oh, I just got my new premium visa. So the premium visa is still being issued, okay? And it's still listed on the Mauritius Economic Development website. But again, who knows if it's going to be there by 2027. So
Yeah,
you may want to get on that quickly, and you can actually be approved for it while you're still in America, while you're still in Canada, while you're still in wherever else in the world that you are. You can get approved for it because it's designed for remote workers, retirees, digital entrepreneurs, online consultants, media companies, marketing consulting agencies, accounting agencies, law firms, people like that who have their paperwork together
you just gave him
and
some
want to
gems.
move abroad. Okay. Now, requirements typically include proof of remote insurance and income, accommodation in Mauritius. So you need to actually have a lease agreement. So being like on the ground here or booking out like an Airbnb or a hotel for a long time, and commitment to not join the Mauritian labor market. Now, this is very standard with digital nomad residence permits. Typically, these permits come out and they do not want you to join the local market. Now, the only caveat or exemption from this is the Spain digital nomad visa that I know of, which is like, hey, 30 to 50% of your clientele can be inside Spain. But typically, most digital nomad permits, they do not want you to join the labor market in that country. Be aware of that. The visa can be renewed annually, and for many families, it becomes a bridge toward a more permanent solution like the self employed entrepreneur permit of 10 years, the investor permit of 10 years, or the retiree permit of 10 years. Now, all of these things are extendable into a 20-year permanent residence in which you have been in the country for now 30 years, making it really easy for you to integrate into the system and have a life outside of the States that doesn't require you to do 30, 60,
Mm.
90-day visa hopping. Now, they also have occupation permits for people who want to do a work permit and things of that nature. But let's go ahead and move on. If you want to finish that conversation and you want to look at some of these other residencies in Africa, go to www.journeywithusmovetoafrica.com and check out our resources. Now, let's talk. That is going to be known as the Singapore of Africa. And so, if you're
Mm.
not familiar with Singapore, Singapore is a country in Asia right below China that's actually pretty small. It's a tiny nation, but they hold a lot of capital. They hold a lot of business and economic power. They hold a lot of finance power. Okay. And so from like the 70s to the 80s to now, they totally flipped their country around from being just this place in Asia that wasn't really
Hmm.
built up to being a dominant financial powerhouse known across the world to wealthy investors. So they're saying that Rwanda is going to be the equivalent of that for the African
Mm.
continent, which is why you may want to get in on a Rwandan residence permit. Now, you should know that they have 5-year permits in Rwanda. And Rwanda surprises so many of its visitors because it is the cleanest country in Africa. They've totally revamped and reshaped themselves after the genocide that happened in the 90s. And Kigali increasingly feels like an emerging African tech corridor rather than an outdated country that is decades and decades in the past. Rwanda is not like that. It has spent years positioning itself to be a conference hub, an innovation hub, even a sports hub, and a pan African business center. Now, Rwanda is the country that's going to allow you to start your business like outside the country anywhere online within just a couple of days, like
Mhm.
24 to 48 hours. You can open a business in Rwanda through their online portal, similar to Mauritius. Boom. And that is it. Now, if you're thinking about residence in Rwanda, you should be looking at investment options, employment, entrepreneurship, property ownership, or long
Mhm.
term business operations. They have a consulting type of residence and they have a $69 temporary residence. You should go on the Irembo platform, which is their immigration site, to look at some of these residence requirements because they're actually easier than you might think, much easier than places like South Africa, Kenya,
Mhm.
Tanzania. Rwanda really does have that advantage in East Africa of having favorable residence processes.
Yeah, and it's least corrupt. Is on the top least corrupt countries. This is why we say residency over citizenship. Point blank. Period. Do not focus on citizenship. There's a lot of things that you have to do. This is why we always talk about residency. So these are the countries that you probably should be looking into first.
Absolutely. And remember, Rwanda also is politically stable. It's not
Hmm.
unstable, right? It's a place that has really been able to revamp themselves and turn around, and it represents international and regional ambition for East Africa. Now,
Yeah.
globally, countries with clear long term planning often outperform louder economies, more popular economies, drowning in political paralysis. And what is political paralysis? Uprisals, upheavals, people, running down the street, being mad at the
Protest.
government, mad at immigrants, mad at everybody. Go to a place that is peaceful and not mad at the world.
Yeah, that's good. That's very important because we see the things that's happening in South Africa now. We see what recently happened in Kenya with the French president coming there, and they're going to be opening a military base there, and the citizens was not happy about that, so they went to the streets. They
Yeah.
protest. They started, throwing stuff. They started just doing everything. So you really have to focus, do your research before you go to a country or a city. So even if you're in a country, just say Kenya, and one day, you just want to walk down the street, go to the city, and then the next thing you know, there's a whole crowd coming towards you protesting. That's something that you really have to pay attention to. So this is why we say do your research for the last, 12 to 18 months, because if the leadership is not taking care of their citizens in a way, and all they care about is just, you know, money, money, money in a way, or power, 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 greed, greed, greed. That's something to really consider because it could, um, you know, affect you in the long term or in the short term, to be honest. So that's something important right there.
Yeah, it's true. Now, number three is Cape Verde, and it's probably the least talked about one on the continent,
Mm,
the least talked about when it comes to residence permits. And I personally don't know why, because Cape Verde is also on the least corrupt list. Now, this country is an island nation on the west coast of Africa. It's like the equivalent of Mauritius to East Africa and Southern Africa. That's Cape Verde to West Africa. And so, for you as an American, a Spanish person, a UKian, it may be quicker for you to go to Cape Verde than it is for you
mm,
to come all the way down to Rwanda, to Mauritius. You may just want to stop in Cape Verde first, get their 1 to 2 year digital nomad visa, similar requirements to Mauritius. You got to make like 2,000 a month or something like that. It's a 1 to 2, maybe possible renewal to 3 year visa, and then you can switch into their investor permits. I believe Cape Verde also does 5 years. You're going to notice something here. We are only talking about countries that do 5 to 10 year residence permits, like long
mm.
term permanent residency permits, because in some countries, like a Tanzania, like a Kenya, like a Senegal, potentially, some of these countries only do 1 to 2 years. And so you literally have to renew all of that paperwork every year, every 1 to 2 years, you have to go and bribe this guy down the road, and you just don't want to deal with all of that foolishness when you don't have to. You may want to go on vacation to those places, that's fine. But when you think of home, long term stability, getting a second residence beside your
Mm,
US passport, these are the countries that you need to look at before 2027. And I also want to iterate, as we get closer to 2027, as it becomes more popular, you're going to see these countries drawing these things back, okay? Because these, remember, are small nations. Mauritius, Rwanda, Cape Verde, these are not large territories. They can't take everybody. And so the demand, as it starts to increase, they're going to restrict that and just
mm,
give it to the people who are already there and just say, yeah, well, we did this for a season. It was great. Now it's over. So this is why the urgency is there for you to actually acquire one of these. I would do so before August 2026 for a shorty, especially
as
because
soon as
these three
possible.
countries have online portals for you to be able to like look into it. Pause this video and do it right now, okay? Now, understand that Cape Verde has the Portuguese influence. Mauritius has the French influence. They also speak Creole here. Rwanda, they speak a little bit of Swahili and Kinyarwanda. And then Cape Verde, they are speaking Portuguese. It has a lot of Portuguese influence, ocean access, political stability,
Mm,
huge tourism growth. They're also looking to become a tech hub. Now, they have relative safety when you compare them to the top safest countries in Africa, which are like a Seychelles, Mauritius, Rwanda, but still relatively safe, and a mild climate. So, remote workers and retirees are literally flocking to Cape Verde because Cape Verde also put out that hybrid digital nomad visa,
mm,
and it sits between Europe, West African geography, and slow living economics. This is a win win scenario. The way that Mauritius sits between Africa, Asia, the Middle East, and like all the way into Oceania and all these stuff, all these areas are like the gateway into Africa. Well, on that side, obviously, you have the Atlantic Ocean, you have Europe, you have America over there. And so it also has that strategic gateway point. I'm sure they also have a port. That's something to be aware of.
yeah,
Some of these port stations in Africa are places that you want to be in as you see gas prices shoot up, as you see shipping change. You want to have access to cities and countries that have a port or that ocean access.
that's important.
Now, Cape Verde is attracting people looking for a few specific things: low stress environments, small populations, slower living, ocean centered lifestyles like island life, and strategic Atlantic positioning. It's not trying to become Dubai, and that may be part of its real appeal. Now, here's what we're going to leave you with. The next era belongs to prepared families, prepared retirees, and prepared long term investors because the world is unfortunately changing
Mm,
unevenly. Some governments are tightening, some banking systems are fragmenting. I mean, think about some of the stable coins and crypto going into effect, and some residency programs are becoming financially unreachable for the middle class almost overnight. Meanwhile, a smaller number of nations are quietly opening strategic doors for
mm-hmm.
people just like you and me, okay? Not forever, but just for now. That is why residency planning before 2027 matters so much, not from fear, but from foresight and planning and understanding how to get your own optionality. As somebody that lives in
Mm.
the West and is probably a regular middle class person, there are still options out there for you. You don't need 200K in capital, because increasingly the families with options will be the families who moved before everyone else realized that the line had already started forming.
Yeah, guys, look, options is key. This is all we always tell our clients. You got to have a couple options. You don't just want to think that there's not options out there for you. It is, and it's more simpler than what it is. Don't think that it's too difficult. Just make sure you have your paperwork together. Make sure that you are prepared. Make sure you do your research. Make sure you talk to someone like us so we can, guide you and give you the advice that you need. Because yeah, times are changing super fast. Just like my wife was just saying, the middle class is going to be obsolete pretty soon, and that's in America. So, I'm pretty sure it's going to touch this side of the world, but the biggest thing to recognize your cost of living is going to help you in the long run. So, if you can get a lower cost of living, that's something that is going to benefit you and sustain you in a long time. So, guys, I hope you enjoyed this information. Make sure you like the video, leave your comments below, and we will talk to you in the next one. Shalom.
Shalom.